Hi, my name is Hannah Denhart, and I am the Women's Counseling Intern this summer. And I am going to talk a little bit today about conflict resolution. I have some of the pages here in front of me, and I wrote over it, and if you would like a chance to read over it as well, that would be great. And then I'll just kind of hit on some stuff that I think is worth noting and worth expanding on. Okay, so the first thing I kind of want to talk about as it flows through the manual would be the 4 types of conflict, and I want to just talk about those and then give some examples to help you kind of visualize what it could look like as it's happening in the camp context. So the first one would be a misunderstanding from poor communication, and an example of this could be you and your co-counselor have a set of campers who have a trail ride, and one of you has to take them there and then pick them up. And it can be really easy to have a miscommunication here about where you and your co-counselor want to meet after you've picked up the kids. It can be scary and confusing when you don't know where your co-counselor is or where half your cabin is. So that can lead to some conflict, being like, where were you? Like, I was freaking out, blah, blah, blah. Err on the side of over communication and be like, confirm where you're going to meet and all of that in order just to avoid any unnecessary conflict and just so everyone is on the same page. I think another instance of miscommunication would be someone saying something and then their words being interpreted in a different way than they meant, and that can just lead to some conflict. So again, erring on the side of over communication and checking in, being like, did that make sense when I said that? Like, are you tracking with me? And that leads right into the second type of conflict, which I have to read this one because it's kind of long, but it's differences in values, goals, gifts, calling, priorities, expectations, interests, or opinions. I would just say, as a general rule, it's fairly important to assume that people hold different beliefs than you and that not everyone is going to believe in the exact same things that you believe. The church is so diverse, and that's something that's so beautiful, and I think that's important for us not to miss, that the church is full of diverse, beautiful people who all come and bring their different opinions and thoughts, and that we just hold space for all of those to interact. Because the church is diverse, we are going to disagree, and disagreements do not always have to lead to conflict. Sometimes they do, which is unfortunate, but we can disagree and still coexist with one another, which I think is so beautiful. With differences in these values, goals, etc., I think it's important to assume the best intentions of the speaker, because it is likely they didn't mean to upset or offend you. And so asking questions and being like, what did you mean by that? And also, I think it's really valuable, if you disagree with someone, to just keep it to yourself. It doesn't need to be everyone's business, and you don't need to go around being like, you'll never believe like what they said or what they believe. And I think that also can very quickly turn into gossip, and disagreements are okay, and they're to be expected because we're all different and we all hold just different beliefs. So the third one, it's competitions over limited resources. So I sat with that for a bit because I've heard about that in like biology class and stuff. I was like, how does that apply to camp? But in sitting with it and thinking through, I was like, okay, like seats in chapel, spots in the dining hall, the food line, like who's getting there first, like roles and skits. Those are just some stuff off the top of my head. Again, assuming the best intentions and that no one is trying to box you out of a great seat in chapel, or I guess the Aranasium now. I would also say with this, like, just check yourself, be like, am I tired? Am I hungry? Where am I emotionally? Why is this impacting me the way it is? Because while this type of conflict can grow into something more, it's usually like something that can resolve itself or be fixed with a quick and loving conversation. All right, and then the fourth type of conflict would be sinful attitudes and habits that lead to sinful words and actions. Something my dad told me when I was very young was that hurt people hurt people. Sometimes in our own hurt, we don't often think logically or think with a rational mindset, and that can lead us to choose to sin against someone. To avoid that, I just have some tips. Keep any things that are like irritating you, I would keep that to yourself, and not everyone needs to know that you and this person are beefing or having conflict or whatever. I think it's also really valuable to talk in person. Don't write a note. Don't send someone else to talk to them for you. Do it yourself and do it as quickly as possible. So now that we've debriefed that, we're going to move on to the 4 basic principles of peacemaking. The first one being to glorify God, and there are questions posed with each of these. So the question with this one is, how can I please and honor the Lord in this situation? So I think the biggest way that you can choose to honor the Lord in situations of conflict would be to choose not to sin against someone in your hurt. I think also viewing someone as a child of God, even in the midst of conflict, can really help just put things in perspective and remember that y'all are on the same team. You're not pitted against each other. So then the second one is to get the log out of your own eye. How can I show Jesus' work in me by taking responsibility for my contribution to this conflict? I think a huge tool in conflict resolution is accountability and owning up to what you contributed to the situation. This helps to avoid blame and be humble in the attempts to solve conflict. I think that an apology with specifics is usually a really great way to go about this. If you're like, hey, I'm sorry, I did this, that, and the other, and I would ask that you forgive me and that we can move on and move past this. With campers, a great way that I found to handle that interpersonal conflict within cabins is to take the number of kids who are having issues and sit them down separately in a space and have them spend some time in reflection and write down what they themselves contributed to a situation. And then once everyone has written, have them all read it aloud, and then you talk about it and you debrief. And that just allows for everyone to own up to what they did and talk about the situation without pinning it on someone else. The third principle to peacemaking is gently restore. How can I lovingly serve others by helping them take responsibility for their contribution to this conflict? Before I say this, I think sometimes the best option is just to let it go. Recognize that maybe having a confrontation or a conversation is not going to be the most productive thing, and just to let it go and choose to be at peace. But in the case that a conversation is necessary, if you feel that having a mediator is going to help everyone stay calm, do that. It could be me, or it could be Nick or Cameron or Josh or Taylor or your quad leader. It could be anyone. But if that's just going to help the situation resolve itself as smoothly as possible, then go for it. There's nothing to be embarrassed about. Conflict is a part of the human experience, and so you have nothing to be embarrassed about if you want to call in another person to help. I would also say address any conflict in a neutral space. If you're addressing it in your cabin, then that's just not going to feel as comfortable for the person coming in. So addressing it in a neutral space. I would also pay attention to the posture of your own heart as you consider why you want to have a conversation with this person. So just being intentional about your motive behind it. Is it I want to confront them and tell them off? Or is it I actually do want to have a conversation and seek to reconcile what's going on? The fourth principle is go and be reconciled. How can I demonstrate the forgiveness of God and encourage a reasonable solution to this conflict? Once you've had the conversation, you've aired it out, let it die. Stop talking about it. Don't bring it up anymore. Move on. And so I'd also encourage you to say everything you need to say, and then don't bring it up again. Don't rehash it. I'd also say be kind in the conversation and how you talk about it after, which you shouldn't, but if you really need to, make an effort to release any bitterness or grudges that may be in your heart. So then this relates to the guide section, because conflict and resolving conflict will help model to your campers and to other staff members how to interact with the world and how to interact with people around us. Without utilizing conflict resolution skills, you will be distracted, and that's going to impact everyone around you, regardless of what your position is. If you're in a conflict and not handling it, that is going to impact the campers. But yeah, that's everything from the manual that I wanted to hit on. But if you have any questions about what I said, or want any clarification, or disagree and want to talk to me about it, you can shoot me a text message or an email. My phone number is 515-867-4434. And then my email is hanahnd18@gmail.com. Thank you. I'm looking forward to this summer.